a doctor uncovered a chilling truth. A young girl was pregnant by her own father, saving her from years of unimaginable abuse. With her father now locked away for a long prison sentence, they hoped she could finally reclaim some sense of normalcy and begin to heal. But the doctor would soon discover that even with her abuser behind bars, the nightmare for this young survivor was far from over. The shadows of her past would return in ways no one could have predicted, threatening to shatter the fragile new life she was struggling to build. Before we dive into part 2 of this shocking story, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe. The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as Dr. Evan Laam pulled into Daniela Rivera's driveway. 3 years had passed since that harrowing night when he helped rescue Lucia from her father's abuse. Tonight was just a simple dinner with what had become his extended family. Inside the modest 2-story house, Dr. Evan was immediately greeted by the energetic 3-year-old Camilla, who crashed into his legs with excitement. "And who might this little tornado be?" he asked with a smile, though he knew perfectly well. "That's Camilla," Daniela said warmly. "Camilla, say hello to Dr. Evan." "Hello, doctor," the girl exclaimed before racing back toward the kitchen. In the dining area, Lucia was setting the table. At 17, she had grown taller, though a certain guardedness lingered in her demeanor. "Hi, Dr. Evan," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Once they were seated and enjoying Lucia's enchiladas, the conversation turned to the recent past. "How are you liking your new place?" Daniela asked. "It's been, 2 years now?" "Almost 3, Dr. Evan replied. "I couldn't stay in that old house anymore. Not after everything that happened, just being there and looking at Marco's house across the street. I couldn't stand it." "How's that neighborhood now?" Daniela inquired. "Has someone moved into Marco's old house?" Dr. Evan shook his head. "I never visit there anymore except to go to my clinic. I purposefully never check his house. Still don't have the heart to go inside my old place either. My new house is close enough to the clinic, just in a different neighborhood." "We heard about the trial," Daniela said, her voice hardening. "Life in prison. It's what he deserves." "More than deserves," Dr. Evan agreed. "After what the prosecution revealed, I'm only surprised they didn't throw away the key." "Entirely." Dr. Evan noticed Lucia had stopped eating, her gaze fixed distantly on her plate. "How are you doing, Lucia?" he asked gently. "School going well?" She looked up as if startled. "It's okay. Mom's helped a lot with raising Camilla." She turned to Daniela. "Thanks for providing for us and making sure I can still go to school." "You're attending Santa Rosa High School, right?" Dr. Evan asked. "I'm actually heading there tomorrow. They invited me to give a talk for their Cervical Cancer Awareness Day." "Oh, that's right," Daniela nodded. "The HPV vaccine program." Lucia's expression darkened. "Yeah, I guess after everything that happened to me, at least I don't need that vaccine anymore." Her tone was flat, emotionless. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Camilla, sensing the mood shift, looked up from her plate with innocent confusion. "Mommy sad?" she asked, reaching for Lucia's hand. "No, baby. Mommy's just tired," Lucia said, softening. "I should get you ready for bed. You have daycare tomorrow, and I need to rest for class." After Lucia took Camilla upstairs, Daniela sighed. She has good days and bad days. Today seems to be one of the harder ones. "How is she managing overall?" Dr. Evan asked quietly. "We're getting by. Her therapist says she's shown remarkable improvement. The fact that she speaks her mind now is actually progress." Daniela smiled. "Sadly, Marco never let her speak at all." As they cleared the dishes, Daniela commented on the changes to Dr. Evan's clinic. The expansion, the indoor playground, even the sitter you hired. "Camilla loves going there while I'm at work. It's practically become a daycare." Dr. Evan smiled. "It's all inspired by you, Daniela. We created it for Camilla so you could work without worrying about her safety. It's a playground for our patients, but a daycare for Camilla. With the kitchen cleaned, they moved to the living room with glasses of wine. Your new job is going well? Dr. Evan asked. The pay is much better, and I'm being considered for a promotion next month, Daniela beamed. That's wonderful, Dr. Evan said sincerely. I'm proud of you after everything you've been through. When he checked his watch and saw it approaching 11, Dr. Evan stood to leave. Thank you again for everything, Daniela said at the door. You're family now, he replied simply. Driving home, Dr. Evan couldn't shake his concern about Lucia's subdued demeanor. Despite 3 years of healing, something in her eyes tonight had reminded him of the frightened girl he'd first encountered in his clinic, a shadow he hadn't seen in months. But perhaps he was overthinking things. Everyone had bad days. Even survivors working hard to rebuild their lives. The following morning, Dr. Evan arrived at Santa Rosa High School carrying a box of informational pamphlets. The school's administrative assistant greeted him warmly, directing him toward the multi-purpose hall where his presentation would take place. As he navigated the bustling corridors between classes, he noticed a group of male students huddled in a corner, their attention fixed on a smartphone. Their laughter had an edge to it that made him pause. Drawing closer, he caught a glimpse of what they were viewing. Explicit photographs on the screen. His stomach dropped when he recognized the subject of those images. That's enough, he said firmly, approaching the group. The boys startled, quickly trying to hide the phone. Hand that over right now, or I'll call the principal and your parents. The tallest boy, clearly the ringleader, slid the phone into his pocket. We weren't doing anything wrong, sir, just looking at what everyone's seen already. Everyone? Dr. Evan echoed, his concern deepening. It's all over. The school network, another boy said with a shrug. Those pics of that Halkin girl with her dad. Dr. Evan's blood ran cold. Those images had been police evidence meant to be kept confidential. This stops now, he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. What you're doing is not only cruel, but potentially illegal. Those are exploitative images of a minor. The boy shifted uncomfortably under his stern gaze. I suggest you delete those images immediately and spread the word that anyone sharing them could face serious consequences, he continued. Now, move along to class before I report this incident. The group scattered quickly, leaving Dr. Evans standing in the corridor, his mind racing. How had those photos leaked? Who could have released them? And most importantly, did Lucia know they were circulating? Dr. Laam, a voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Principal Samuels approaching. Thank you for coming today. The students are already gathering in the hall for your presentation. Dr. Evan forced a smile, not wanting to delay the event. Just had to address some inappropriate behavior in the hallway. I'll explain later. Principal Samuels nodded, leading him toward the multi-purpose hall. The students have been looking forward to your talk. Health education is so important, especially at this age. As they entered the hall, Dr. Evans scanned the rows of seated students, looking for Lucia. He couldn't spot her among the sea of teenage faces. Perhaps she was running late, or maybe she was still in her classroom and would join the assembly later. The principal introduced him, and Dr. Evans stepped up to the podium, setting aside his concerns to focus on the presentation. He explained the basics of HPV infection, its connection to cervical cancer, and the importance of vaccination. As he continued his talk, he noticed several students whispering and glancing at their phones beneath their desks, despite the school's policy against phone use during assemblies. His unease grew, but he maintained his professional composure, determined to deliver the important health information. When he opened the floor for questions, several hands shot up. He called on a girl in the front row who asked about vaccine side effects, followed by a boy curious about the vaccination schedule. Then he pointed to a student in the middle section. The boy stood, a glint in his eye that immediately put Dr. Evan on edge. Aren't you the doctor who saved Lucia Halkin? The student asked loudly. A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Dr. Evan paused, choosing his words carefully. Yes, I was Lucia's physician. Her case is well known in town, but I'd prefer to focus on today's health topic rather than individual patient. Histories. Another student raised her hand. Is it true that she had her father's baby? That's what everyone's saying. Dr. Evan's jaw tightened. That's a personal question that only Lucia should answer if she chooses to. I'm here to discuss cervical cancer prevention, not to gossip about a student who has already endured far too much invasion of privacy. A boy in the back row stood without being called on. Why bother with this? Vaccine talk when girls like her are just going to— That's enough, Principal Samuels interrupted, stepping forward. This kind of disrespectful behavior is exactly why we need more education, not less. She addressed the assembled students with stern authority. From this moment forward, phones are prohibited during school hours. Any student found with a phone will have it confiscated, and anyone discovered with inappropriate images will be reported to their parents and assigned to detention for a month. As the principal continued admonishing the students, Dr. Evan caught a glimpse of movement. At the multipurpose hall's rear door, a female figure with dark hair was slipping away, moving quickly. Though he only saw her for a split second, something in the way she moved suggested it was Lucia. His instinct was to follow her to make sure she was all right, but he was trapped, in the middle of the presentation. Leaving now would only draw more attention to the situation and potentially embarrass Lucia further. For the remainder of the Q&A session, Dr. Evan kept glancing toward the door, hoping to see Lucia return, but she never did. He answered the remaining questions professionally, distributed the informational pamphlets about HPV vaccination and local clinics, including his own, and concluded his presentation. As the students filed out of the hall, guided back to their classrooms by teachers, Dr. Evan couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The leaked photos, Lucia's absence from school despite leaving home that morning, and now her brief appearance and hasty departure, it all pointed to a troubling situation that went beyond typical teenage drama. Dr. Laam, could I speak with you for a moment? Principal Samuels asked as the last of the students exited the hall. Of course, he replied, still distracted by thoughts of Lucia. They walked toward the administrative offices, the corridors now quiet with students back in their classrooms. I want to apologize for our students' behavior, the principal began. What happened in there was unacceptable. I'm more concerned about the inappropriate photos of Lucia circulating among the student body, Dr. Evan said. Those images were police evidence from her father's trial. They should never have been made public. Principal Samuels's expression grew grave. I became aware of this situation just this morning. A teacher confiscated a phone and reported finding those images. We immediately began investigating, but it seems they've spread like wildfire overnight. Do you know where they originated? From? How the students accessed them? From what we can tell, they were uploaded to a social media platform and then shared through private messaging apps. We've implemented the phone ban effective immediately, but as you know, these things tend to take on a life of their own. Dr. Evan nodded grimly. Has Lucia been informed? Is she even here today? She was marked absent in her homeroom this morning, Principal Samuels confirmed. We tried calling her mother, but she's at work and hasn't responded yet. I'll check in with her myself, Dr. Evan offered. But before I go, is there a quiet place I could use to do some research? I'd like to try to trace these images to their source. The principal directed him to the school library. There's a private research room in the back that faculty use. You're welcome to use it for as long as you need. Dr. Evan thanked her and made his way to the library. The librarian showed him to a small room equipped with a computer and a locked door for privacy. Once alone, he accessed the internet and began searching for information about the leaked photos. It didn't take long to find what he was looking for. The images had indeed been uploaded to various platforms within the past 24 hours. Dr. Evan felt sick as he confirmed they were the same photographs Lucia had slipped to him that night 3 years ago. Intimate, exploitative images. of a child being abused by her father. Pulling out his phone, he dialed a number he still had saved from the original investigation. Detective Russell speaking. Detective, this is Dr. Evan Laam. I need to speak with you urgently about Lucia Halcon. There was a brief pause on the line. Dr. Laam, it's been a while. What's going on? Are you aware that photographs from Marco Halcon's case have been leaked online? They're circulating among students at Lucia's high school. We received reports early this morning and are already investigating, the detective confirmed. Those images were confidential police evidence. We're trying to determine how they were accessed and distributed. Could Marco have posted them from prison somehow? It's possible, Detective Russell admitted. Though unlikely, we made sure the original content was taken down years ago. What's circulating now was uploaded recently within the past few days. It seems like a deliberate attack against the girl and her family. Do you have any leads on who might be behind this? The detective hesitated. Nothing concrete yet. These images could have been saved by anyone before they were removed, or they might have been stored somewhere on the dark web. Our tech team is tracing the uploads back to their source. Can you at least tell me which account posted them initially? I might recognize something that could help. After another pause, the detective provided a username. But I have to warn you, Dr. Laam, this isn't your responsibility. We appreciate your concern for Lucia, but this is now a police matter. Be careful not to interfere with an ongoing investigation. I understand, Detective, Dr. Evan assured him. I just want to help protect her. She's been through enough already. After ending the call, Dr. Evan entered the username into the search bar. He quickly found the account, newly created with no personal information and only one purpose: posting the explicit images of Lucia with her father. Dozens of photographs that had been collected from Marco's bedroom during the police investigation were now publicly displayed. Who would do this? He muttered to himself, scrolling through the account information. The profile picture caught his attention. A shadowy figure with emo-style hair hanging over the face, obscuring the person's identity. But it was the background that truly alarmed him. He recognized the wood-paneled walls immediately. They belonged to the hidden room in Marco's basement, the chamber where he had imprisoned and abused Lucia for years. Dr. Evan sat back in his chair, the implications sinking in. Whoever had created this account had access to that house and that room. But Marco was in prison serving a life sentence. Who else knew about that space? Who else had the keys or the access codes? He wiped the search history from the computer and logged out, his mind racing with possibilities. As he left the library, he realized his route back to the clinic would take him past both Marco's old house and his own abandoned property. It had been months since he'd driven down that street, deliberately avoiding the painful memories associated with those places. Dr. Evan headed for the parking lot, a sense of urgency building in his chest. Lucia had left home this morning in her school uniform. She had appeared briefly at the back of the assembly hall before disappearing. Again, and someone with access to Marco's old basement was posting explicit images of her online. As Dr. Evan drove away from the school, he dialed Daniela's workplace. After explaining who he was to the receptionist, he was put through to Lucia's mother. Dr. Evan, is everything okay? Daniela's voice carried a note of immediate concern. Daniela, I'm at the school and Lucia isn't here. They've marked her absent today. What? That can't be right. We left the house together this morning, Daniela replied, confusion evident in her tone. She was wearing her uniform, carrying her backpack. She took the bus to school while I dropped Camilla at your clinic's playground before heading to work. She hasn't been in any of her classes, Dr. Evan explained. I thought I glimpsed her briefly during my presentation, but she disappeared before I could speak with her. There was a long pause before Daniela spoke again, her voice tight with fear. Is she in danger, Evan, after everything we've been through? I don't know, he admitted, reluctant to add to her worry, but unwilling to hide the truth. There's something else you should know. Some inappropriate photos of Lucia from 3 years ago have surfaced online and are circulating at school. Oh God, Daniela whispered. Those photos from the case. The detective called me this morning, but I was too busy. I couldn't pick up. Lucia didn't seem well this morning, but when I asked her if she wanted to stay home today, she insisted she was fine and that she still wanted to go to school. This new information troubled Dr. Evan. If Lucia knew about the photos but still chose to go to school, what had happened to make her disappear later? "Do you think we should call the police?" Daniela asked, panic rising in her voice. "Where could she be if not at school?" "Let's not jump to conclusions yet," Dr. Evan said, trying to stay calm for Daniela's sake. "The police are already investigating the leaked photos. Let me do some checking around first and I'll call you right back." After ending the call, Dr. Evan continued driving, his route deliberately taking him toward his old neighborhood. As he approached Marco's former house, he slowed down, parking his car a few houses away. The property looked different than he remembered. The once neglected lawn had been mowed, and someone had planted colorful flowers along the walkway. A bicycle leaned against the front porch, suggesting new inhabitants had moved in. As Dr. Evan sat watching the house, his phone rang, his nurse assistant, Rosa, calling from the clinic. "Dr. Laam, where are you?" she asked without preamble. "Your first patient arrived 15 minutes ago, and we have a full schedule today." "I'm sorry, Rosa. Something urgent came up," he explained. "Could you reschedule my appointments?" "For the next hour, I need a little more time. Is everything all right?" Rosa's voice softened with concern. "I'm not sure yet. I'll explain when I get to the clinic. Just give me another 30 minutes. After ending the call, Dr. Evan continued observing Marco's old house. A few minutes later, the front door opened, and a man stepped out to check the mailbox. He appeared to be in his 30s with a shaved head and muscular build, nothing like the shadowy figure from the profile picture with the emo-style hair. The man lingered in the front yard, his gaze sweeping up and down the street as if searching for something or someone. After a moment, he retreated inside, closing the door firmly behind him. Dr. Evans' suspicions deepened. The man's behavior seemed oddly vigilant for a routine check of the mail. Deciding to investigate further, he drove a short distance down the street to his own abandoned house. The property looked exactly as he remembered it, a slightly overgrown garden, fading paint on the trim, an air of neglect that explained why it had been difficult to sell. He pulled into the driveway and sat for a moment, memories washing over him of the night he discovered the truth about Marco and Lucia. With a deep breath, Dr. Evan exited his car and approached the front door. He inserted his key, half expecting it not to work after so much time. But the lock turned smoothly. The door swung open to reveal his old living room, furniture still in place, exactly as he'd left it when he moved out 3 years ago. He stepped inside, flipping the light switch. The electricity was still connected, something he maintained in the hope of eventually selling the property. Everything seemed undisturbed. His old couch covered with a protective sheet, bookshelves emptied of personal items, but still standing. Against the walls, kitchen appliances unplugged but present. Dr. Evan moved through the house methodically, checking each room for signs of intrusion or occupation. Nothing seemed amiss until he reached the guest bedroom, where he noticed the closet door slightly ajar when he distinctly remembered closing everything before leaving. After confirming the upstairs was empty, he returned downstairs, switched off the lights, and headed for the door, satisfied that the house remained unoccupied. He had just locked the front door when a loud thump from inside stopped him in his tracks. The sound had come from below, from the basement. A chill ran down his spine as he realized he hadn't checked that part of the house. Unlocking the door again, Dr. Evan stepped back inside and moved toward the basement door located off the kitchen. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone, keeping it ready to dial 911 as he slowly turned the knob. The basement stairs creaked under his weight as he descended, feeling along the wall for the light switch. When the fluorescent lights buzzed to life, Dr. Evan froze in shock. His once empty basement had been transformed into a makeshift photography studio. Black curtains draped the walls, professional lighting equipment stood positioned around the space, and a raised platform with various backdrops dominated the center of the room. But what truly horrified him was the teenage girl lying crumpled on the floor beside the platform. She was only partially dressed, her school uniform shirt open, her skirt hitched up inappropriately high. Her eyes were unfocused, her movements sluggish, clear signs of sedation. Dr. Evan rushed to her side, medical training overriding his shock. He checked her pulse, finding it steady but slow. Her pupils were dilated, and her skin felt clammy to the touch. She appeared severely dehydrated and drugged, likely with some kind of sedative. "Can you hear me?" he asked, gently shifting her into a more comfortable position. "I'm a doctor. I'm going to help you." The girl mumbled something unintelligible, her head lolling to the side. Dr. Evan quickly dialed 911. "This is Dr. Evan Laam. I need police and an ambulance. At 1478 Oakwood Drive immediately. I found a teenage girl who appears to have been drugged and possibly assaulted." As he gave the dispatcher details, he heard the unmistakable sound of the front door closing upstairs. Someone had been in the house and was now fleeing. "Send. Police now," he urged into the phone. "The perpetrator may still be on the premises." Setting his phone on speaker so the dispatcher could hear, Dr. Evan rushed up the basement stairs. By the time he reached the front door and looked outside, he caught only a glimpse of someone in a black hoodie running down the street. The figure jumped into a waiting car driven by another person, and the vehicle sped away before Dr. Evan could make out the license plate. Returning to the basement, he focused on providing first aid to the girl while awaiting emergency services. Her condition was stable but concerning. Whoever had drugged her had administered a significant dose. As he monitored her vital signs, the girl began murmuring more coherently. Dr. Evan leaned closer to hear her words. 4291, she whispered, the sequence of numbers punctuated by shallow breaths. Marco's house, 8750. Dr. Evan realized she was reciting what sounded like access codes, one for Marco's house and another combination he didn't recognize. He quickly noted the numbers in his phone, suspecting they might be crucial for whatever was happening. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. Dr. Evan positioned himself at the top of the basement stairs, ready to direct the first responders to the victim while trying to process the disturbing revelation that someone had been using his abandoned home as a studio for exploitative photography. Possibly the same someone who had uploaded Lucia's photos online. And, if this girl was here, where was Lucia? Police cruisers and an ambulance arrived within minutes, their lights painting the quiet suburban street in flashes of red and blue. Officers secured the perimeter while paramedics rushed to attend to the drugged teenager in the basement. Detective Russell, whom Dr. Evan had spoken with earlier that day, was among the responding officers. His expression was grim as he surveyed the makeshift photo studio. "Dr. Laam," he acknowledged, pulling out a notepad. "I need you to walk me through exactly what happened here." Dr. Evan explained how he'd come to check on his abandoned property after noticing suspicious activity and discovering the girl in the basement. "I haven't been inside this house for nearly 3 years, he emphasized. "I had no idea someone was using it this way." The detective's gaze swept the basement, taking in the professional lighting, backdrops, and camera equipment. "And you just happened to check on this place today after our conversation about the leaked photos." "I was concerned," Dr. Evan admitted. "The username you gave me, when I looked it up, the profile picture had Marco's basement in the background. I was driving past anyway and decided to stop." "So, you conducted your own investigation after I specifically warned you not to get involved," Detective Russell said, his tone neutral, but his meaning clear. Dr. Evan sighed. "I understand how it looks, Detective, but I wasn't trying to interfere with your investigation. I was concerned about Lucia and simply wanted to check on my private residence." Paramedics were now moving the girl onto a stretcher. One approached Detective Russell. "She's stable but heavily sedated. We need to get her to the hospital immediately for toxicology and to check for signs of assault." As they carried the girl upstairs, Dr. Evan turned back to the detective. "She mentioned numbers before you arrived, what sounded like access codes. One set she specifically connected to Marco's house." He showed the detective the numbers he'd recorded on his phone. Detective Russell's expression shifted from skepticism to interest. "This could be useful," he acknowledged, copying the numbers into his notepad. "Now, Dr. Laam, we need to take your official statement." For the next half hour, Dr. Evan answered questions about his discovery, his relationship with Lucia and her family, and his limited knowledge of who might be behind the exploitation. "The man I saw running from my house wore a black hoodie and had dark hair," he explained. "He was picked up by someone in a car waiting at the end of the street." "We'll review neighborhood security footage," Detective Russell assured him. "Now, about these access codes, if they do indeed grant access to Marco Halcon's former residence, we'll need to check that property immediately." Dr. Evan nodded. "Someone moved in recently. I saw a man there earlier today. Bald, muscular build, 30s. He seemed to be watching the street." While other officers continued processing the scene at Dr. Evan's house, Detective Russell organized a team to investigate Marco's former home. Dr. Evan insisted on accompanying them, his concern for Lucia overriding any caution. "This isn't standard procedure," Detective Russell warned as they approached Marco's house. "I understand, Detective," Dr. Evan replied. "But I know both properties, and I know Lucia. If she's in danger, I want to help," Athise. Detective reluctantly agreed, positioning Dr. Evan safely behind the officers as they approached the front door. One of them knocked firmly, announcing police presence. The bald man Dr. Evan had seen earlier opened the door, surprise evident on his face. "Can I help you, officers?" Detective Russell showed his badge. "Santa Rosa Police Department. We're investigating a situation that may be connected to this property." "Are you the owner?" "Just moved in 5 days ago," the man confirmed, his accent suggesting he wasn't from the area. "Bought it last month. Is there a problem?" "Sir, are you aware of this house's history?" Detective Russell asked. The man shook his head. "No, not really. It was listed at a great price compared to other places in this neighborhood. Is there something I should know?" "This house was previously owned by a man convicted of serious crimes," the detective explained. "We have reason to believe someone may be accessing your property without your knowledge, particularly the basement area. Would you allow us to check the basement?" The man looked genuinely confused. "That's the thing. I can't even get down there. There's a keypad lock on the door, and the property manager never gave me the code. I've been trying to contact them about it for days." Dr. Evan and Detective Russell exchanged significant looks. "Sir, with your permission, we'd like to try a code that might open that basement," Detective Russell said. "We have reason to believe there may be criminal activity taking place there." The homeowner stepped back, gesturing for them to enter. "Be my guest. If someone's been sneaking into my house, I want to know about it." They followed him to a door off the kitchen, the entrance to the basement that Dr. Evan remembered from the night of Lucia's rescue 3 years earlier. A new electronic keypad had been installed where the original lock had been. The previous lock was removed during the police investigation, Detective Russell murmured to Dr. Evan. "Someone must have installed this later." The detective entered the first set of numbers the girl had provided, 8750. The keypad beeped, and the lock disengaged with a click. "That's impossible," the homeowner said, his eyes wide. "How did you know the code?" "We need to check your basement, sir," Detective Russell replied, drawing his weapon. "Please stay up here with this officer while we investigate." "Doctor." Evan remained behind the detective and 2 other officers as they descended the stairs, their flashlights illuminating the dim space ahead. The basement appeared largely unchanged from what Dr. Evan remembered, the main area still unfinished, with exposed beams and a concrete floor. "Lucia!" Dr. Evan called out, his voice echoing in the space. "Are you down here?" A faint whimpering sound came from the far corner, from behind the false wall that had concealed Marco's hidden room. Detective Russell signaled for the officers to move forward cautiously. The false panel that had once hidden the entrance to Marco's secret chamber now stood slightly ajar. One of the officers pushed it open fully, revealing the room beyond. Dr. Evans' heart sank at what they found. Lucia was huddled beneath a table, dressed in clothes far too revealing for a 17-year-old girl. A camera setup, similar to the one in his basement, stood in the center of the room, lights positioned to illuminate the bed where Marco had once photographed and abused his daughter. "Lucia," Dr. Evans said gently, approaching slowly while the officers secured the room. "It's Dr. Evan. You're safe now." She looked up, her eyes wide with fear and swimming with tears. When she recognized him, she crawled out from her hiding place and launched herself into his arms, sobs racking her body. "They said they'd take Camilla," she cried, clinging to him. "They said they'd hurt her if I didn't do what they wanted." Detective Russell holstered his weapon, his expression grim as he surveyed the scene. "Get her upstairs," he instructed Dr. Evan. "We'll process this room and call for another ambulance. She'll need medical attention." As Dr. Evan helped Lucia up the stairs, he couldn't shake the horror of what they'd discovered. Somehow, 3 years after her rescue from Marco's abuse, Lucia had once again been trapped in the same nightmare in the same room where her trauma had begun. In the living room of what was once Marco's house, Lucia sat wrapped in a blanket provided by one of the female officers. Dr. Evan remained beside her on the couch, while the bewildered new homeowner spoke with detectives in the kitchen. "Can you tell us what happened, Lucia?" Detective Russell asked gently, sitting across from her. "How did you end up back in that basement?" Lucia's hands trembled as she clutched the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "It started a few weeks ago," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I got a note in my locker at school. It had a picture of Camilla at the playground in Dr. Evans' clinic. The note said, if I didn't cooperate, they would take her." Dr. Evan felt a chill run through him at the mention of his clinic's playground. "I ignored it at first," Lucia continued. "I thought it was just a cruel prank. But then more notes came with more pictures of Camilla, at preschool, in our yard, even sleeping in her bed." Her voice broke. "They were watching her all the time. They knew our routines when Mom would drop her off. Everything." "Do you know who they are?" Detective Russell asked. Lucia shook her head. "I never saw their faces clearly. They always wore hoodies or hats pulled low, but there were 3 of them. 2 who worked here taking the pictures and another one who drove them." "And they brought you here today instead of school?" "No, I went to school first," Lucia explained. "I thought I could handle it. Then I started seeing the photos. On everyone's phones." Her eyes filled with fresh tears. "Those pictures from before with my father, they were everywhere. People were laughing, whispering." Dr. Evan placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I saw some students looking at them during my visit. I'm so sorry, Lucia. When I couldn't take it anymore, I tried to leave," she continued. "But they were waiting for me outside. They showed me a live video of Camilla on their phone. She was at the daycare in Dr. Evans' clinic. They said if I didn't go with them right now, their friend would take her." Detective Russell leaned forward. "These men, did they tell you why they were doing this?" "They said this is where they've always operated," Lucia replied. "They change the basement lock and only come when the house is empty. They're good at duplicating keys and breaking in without leaving traces." The house was vacant until recently, Dr. Evan realized aloud. They must have been using it freely until the new owner moved in. "They seemed angry about that," Lucia confirmed. "They talked about needing to find a new location soon. That's when they started using Dr. Evans' empty house, too." One of the officers who had been searching the basement approached Detective Russell, holding an evidence bag containing shredded paper. "Sir, we found these in the trash can downstairs. Looks like they tried to destroy some kind of transaction record. The detective examined the fragments through the plastic. Good work. Get these to forensics immediately. They might help us identify who's behind this. He turned back to Lucia. Do you have any idea where these men might be based when they're not here? Lucia hesitated, then nodded. I think they operate out of a bar on Willow Street. I heard them talking about it while they were setting up the camera. One of them said something about the back room at Rusty's being their real base. Rusty's Bar, Detective Russell repeated, making a note. We know that place. It's had numerous code violations over the years. A female paramedic entered the living room, kneeling in front of Lucia. I need to check your vitals and make sure you're okay. Is that all right? Lucia nodded, allowing the medic to take her blood pressure and check her pupils for signs of drugging. She doesn't appear to have been sedated like the other girl, the paramedic reported to Detective Russell, but her heart rate is elevated, and she's showing signs of extreme stress. I'm okay, Lucia insisted. They didn't touch me that way. They were focused on that other girl first. They said I was a special and needed proper preparation before they started with me. She shuddered at the memory. This is unbelievable, Dr. Evans said, struggling to contain his anger. These people are using other people's basements to operate, knowing the homeowners will be the ones caught in the initial investigation if they're discovered. It's sadly not uncommon, Detective Russell explained. They set up in vacant or rarely used properties, creating just enough time to escape if discovered. The homeowner deals with the police while they relocate their operation elsewhere. Another officer approached with additional evidence. Detective, we found more transaction records. These weren't shredded. He handed over several papers in evidence bags. Detective Russell examined them closely, his expression darkening. These appear to be payment records for acquiring digital files. He looked up at Lucia. Did these men say anything about how they got hold of the original photos of you and your father? They said they had connections in the prison, Lucia replied, that my father had given them access to his collection in exchange for new pictures of me. My God, Dr. Evan whispered, the full scope of the horror becoming clear. Marco is still controlling things from prison. Detective Russell nodded grimly. These records confirm it. There's a guard's name here and an address for delivery of physical materials. He turned to the officer beside him. Get this to headquarters immediately. We need a team at Rusty's Bar and another at this address. He handed over one of the evidence bags. As officers mobilized around them, Dr. Evan kept his focus on Lucia, who seemed to be processing the reality of her situation. I want to see my mom and Camilla, she said finally, looking up at him with red-rimmed eyes. I need to know she's safe. We'll take you to the police station, Detective Russell assured her. Your mother will meet you there, and I'll personally send an officer to check on your daughter at Dr. Laam's clinic. Dr. Evan nodded gratefully. My staff would never let anyone unauthorized near the children, but an extra police presence would be reassuring for everyone. As they prepared to leave, the new homeowner approached, his expression a mixture of shock and sympathy. I had no idea about any of this, he said to Lucia. I'm so sorry for what happened to you in this house. I'll be selling it as soon as possible. Lucia nodded silently, unable to form a response. Dr. Evan guided her toward the door, where a police cruiser waited to transport her to the station. As they stepped outside, Lucia paused, looking back at the house that had been the site of so much pain. I never thought I'd be back here, she whispered. I never thought he could still hurt me from prison. This ends today, Dr. Evan promised her. They won't get away with this. The Santa Rosa police station hummed with activity as officers processed evidence and coordinated the raid on Rusty's Bar. In a quiet interview room, Lucia sat wrapped in a fresh blanket, a cup of untouched hot chocolate on the table before her. When the door opened and Daniela rushed in with Camilla in her arms, Lucia broke down completely. She stood on shaky legs, reaching for her daughter. "Mommy!" Camilla cried, practically launching herself from her grandmother's arms into her mother's embrace. You didn't come get me. I'm here now, baby, Lucia sobbed, clutching her tightly. I'm so sorry. Mommy loves you so much. Daniela enveloped both of them in her arms, tears streaming down her face. Are you hurt? Did they hurt you? I'm okay, Mom, Lucia assured her, though her trembling voice suggested otherwise. They didn't get the chance to do what they planned. Dr. Evans stood by the door, watching the reunion with mixed emotions, relief that Lucia was safe, rage at those who had terrorized her, and deep concern about the lasting impact of this second trauma. Detective Russell entered the room, his expression tentatively optimistic. I have some updates, he announced. The raid on Rusty's bar was successful. We apprehended 2 men matching the descriptions Lucia provided. The third man, the driver, managed to escape, but we have his vehicle's license plate from security footage. It's just a matter of time before we locate him. What about the girl from Dr. Evans' basement? Lucia asked, still holding Camilla protectively. She's receiving treatment at the hospital, the detective replied. She's also a student at your school, grade 11. Her parents are with her now. She was heavily sedated, but doesn't appear to have been physically assaulted yet. You likely saved her from that by distracting them. Lucia nodded, burying her face in Camilla's hair to hide fresh tears. The 2 men we arrested are already talking, Detective Russell continued. They're each trying to blame the other to get a better deal. They've confirmed what Lucia told us. They were operating under Marco Halkin's remote direction from prison. How is that possible? Daniela demanded. He's supposed to be in maximum security. According to their statements, they approached Marco months ago with a proposition, the detective explained. In exchange for photographing Lucia and smuggling the images to him in prison, he would give them access to his dark web account, where he had stored backups of all his original photographs. And he was very specific about where the pictures had to be taken, Russell added. Marco insisted on his old basement, the place where it all began. In his own words, that's why the crew kept sneaking back into that house, even after it was sold. Dr. Evans' stomach turned at the thought. So they could sell or distribute them? Exactly, the detective confirmed. Marco, apparently, had quite a reputation in certain dark corners of the internet. His work still has value to the right buyers. He said the last part with evident disgust. Daniela sank into a chair, her face ashen. Will this nightmare ever end? 3 years in prison, and he's still finding ways to hurt my daughter. We're already in contact with the prison authorities, Detective Russell assured her. Marco will be transferred to a more restrictive facility with no access to visitors or outside communication, and the guard who helped smuggle materials will be facing criminal charges. Lucia looked up, her eyes hollow with exhaustion and despair. It doesn't matter what happens to him now, she said quietly. Those pictures are out there. People at school have seen them. They've probably already made copies. The dark web never forgets anything. She kissed Camilla's forehead, her next words breaking Dr. Evans' heart. I'm so sorry you were born into this, baby. It's not fair to you. None of this is fair. Camilla, innocent to the weight of her words, simply patted her wet cheek. No cry, Mommy. No cry. Detective Russell cleared his throat. We'll be bringing charges against everyone involved in this operation. The 2 men we arrested, the prison guard, the driver when we catch him, and we'll be adding new charges against Marco Halkin for orchestrating it all from prison. What about the photos at school? Lucia asked. Everyone's seen them. The school has implemented a strict policy against phones, Dr. Evan reminded her, and the principal is taking this very seriously. There will be consequences for any student found sharing those images. Dr. Laam is right, Detective Russell added. Plus, distributing those images is a crime. They're considered child exploitation material. We'll be working with the school to address this situation and educate students about the serious legal consequences of sharing such content. Lucia nodded, though she didn't appear convinced. It still happened. People still saw. They'll still whisper and stare. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by Camilla's soft babbling as she played with her mother's necklace, blissfully unaware of the crisis surrounding her. "I can't do this anymore," Lucia finally whispered. "Every time I think we're safe, he finds another way to hurt us. It's never going to end." "Don't say that," Daniela pleaded, taking her daughter's hand. "We can't let him win. We've come too far, fought too hard." "Your mother's right," Dr. Evans said gently. "What happened today was horrific, but you survived. You protected Camilla. You helped save another girl from experiencing what you endured. That takes extraordinary courage." Lucia looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so tired of being brave. I just want to be normal." Dr. Evan moved closer, kneeling to meet her eye level. "I know this feels overwhelming right now, but I promise you, we will get through this, all of us together. We'll push for Marco to be moved to a facility where he can never reach you again. We'll work with your school to address the fallout from the leaked photos, and I'll personally support whatever you need. Therapy, time away, anything." "Why?" Lucia asked, her voice small. "Why do you care so much about us?" Dr. Evan considered her question seriously. "Because 3 years ago, you trusted me with your truth when you had every reason not to trust anyone. You showed me what real courage looks like, and because you and Camilla and your mother have become like family to me." Detective Russell discreetly excused himself, giving the family space for this intimate conversation. "He's right, mi amor," Daniela said softly. "We're not alone in this fight. We never have been." Camilla reached out from her mother's lap, patting Dr. Evan's cheek with a chubby hand. "Dr. Evan, fix Mommy," she declared with childish certainty. Despite everything, a small smile tugged at Lucia's lips. If only it were that simple. Baby. "The healing process isn't simple," Dr. Evan acknowledged. "But it is possible. Every day you get up, take care of Camilla, go to school, and live your life. That's a victory. Every moment of joy you experience is something Marco can't take from you." Lucia lifted Camilla higher in her arms, pressing her cheek against hers. "For her," she whispered. "I'll keep going for her." "And for yourself," Dr. Evan added gently. "You deserve a full life, Lucia, free from fear and shame." Detective Russell returned, knocking lightly on the doorframe. "I just received word that we've located the third suspect, the driver. He was trying to leave town on a bus. He's in custody now." Relief washed over Lucia's face, some of the tension visibly leaving her shoulders. "So, it's really over." "This chapter is," Detective Russell confirmed. "We'll make sure all 3 men face the maximum penalties allowed. And we're already working with the Tech Crimes Unit to track down and remove the photographs from circulation as much as possible." "I know that won't erase them completely," Lucia said, showing wisdom beyond her years. "Once something's online, it's never truly gone. But thank you for trying." As the day's events caught up with her, exhaustion settled over. Lucia like a heavy blanket. Camilla, sensing her mother's fatigue, had grown quiet in her arms, her head resting on her shoulder. "You should go home and rest," Dr. Evans suggested. "It's been a traumatic day." Daniela nodded in agreement. "I've already called off work for the rest of the week. We'll stay home, just the 3 of us." "I'll come by tomorrow to check on you," Dr. Evan promised, "and I'll speak with Principal Samuels about ensuring a safe environment when you're ready to return to school." As they prepared to leave, Lucia paused, turning back to Dr. Evan. "You saved me again," she said simply. "Thank you for not giving up." Dr. Evan shook his head. "You saved yourself, Lucia. You were smart enough to leave those clues, brave enough to face your fears. I just followed the breadcrumbs you left behind. Still, Daniela interjected, we wouldn't have made it through any of this without you, Evan. You're part of our family now, whether you like it or not. She smiled, the first genuine smile since this crisis began. I'm honored, Dr. Evan replied sincerely. As he watched them leave the police station, Camilla waving sleepily over Lucia's shoulder, Dr. Evan reflected on the long journey they had all shared. 3 years ago, he had been simply a family physician who noticed something amiss with a teenage patient. Now he was deeply intertwined with their lives, a guardian of sorts committed to their well-being. The past might never fully release its grip on Lucia. The photos that had been distributed could resurface years from now. The trauma she had endured would always be part of her story. But what mattered most was that her story would continue, with new chapters of healing, growth, and joy alongside the painful ones. And as long as he drew breath, Dr. Evan would ensure she never faced those chapters alone. Some bonds, forged in crisis and strengthened through recovery, transcended ordinary relationships. They became something more profound. A chosen family, built not on blood, but on compassion, trust, and the unwavering belief in each other's worth. In a world that had shown Lucia its darkest corners, Dr. Evan and Daniela would continue to illuminate the path forward, one day at a time, until Lucia could fully see the light of her own remarkable resilience and the unlimited potential of her future.